you could see all the way through, especially because it begins with the origins of his care about this sector is with Diana. It's that this is so close to his heart, and you really get the sense that he knows the people that are involved, and he genuinely is throwing his weight behind this. And it just feels like a little bit of a departure from, the many engagements we see royals do. It's now he's really getting his hands stuck in and following it through, and as you say, putting a bit of a rod on his back.
And he's taking on his mother's legacy, but also, he's going to hand it on to his children.
Yes.
I'm sure it's not a matter of time before he lets George and Charlotte and Louis, sleep rough overnight and get a taste of what he did when he was a kid. So I'm sure that's going to pass on down to them.
We opened discussing whether the mention of Harry was some kind of olive branch, but you mentioned there about he also spoke about Princess Diana and the fact that she would have probably been proud, but also thought that he was a bit mad by taking on this thing. But the way I see the homelessness, please disagree with me if you wish, that this show it's not about Harry, of course, it's not about Princess Diana, but it's very much about Prince William and his own kind of personal drive. I mean, he says. I should be delivering change in my position. And he says that he wants to use his role to help people. It's really a two-part documentary about Prince William and everything that he is actually doing. Forget, that Diana was the inspiration, that was a brief mention of Harry. It's really insightful into what William's actually hoping to achieve the rest of his life.
What he's doing is he's concentrating on a few things, and he really wants to make a difference. I mean, the days of having 1,500 patronages, which is what the late Queen and Prince Philip had between them, spreading themselves quite thin. They couldn't possibly sort of take part in all of these things. They've gone. I think they just want to concentrate on a few core issues like the Earthshot Prize, like homelessness, and really make a difference. And that's what he's doing. And initially with this homelessness thing, he's concentrating on, I think it's 5 or 6 centres to try and, these are techniques that have been used in other countries, particularly Finland, I think. And he's going to concentrate on those. And it's a bit like his 5 prizes with the Earthshot Prize. He really wants to sort of concentrate on a few core things and make a difference. And only time will tell if he, if he achieves it. But I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to sort of, make sure that what he actually does counts.
Well, did you think that what we've seen in that 2-part documentary and what we've read of the last year since he's been running this project, do you think that William will succeed? Do you believe that he can end homelessness or find ways to get organisations to end homelessness?
He said 5 years, which is obviously very ambitious. It's a huge problem and multifaceted. But I like the fact that he did, because he's basically saying we're not talking about a wishful thinking one day. Let's actually put ourselves in a position where we have a target, so we have to push really hard to get there. And the other thing that I do respect about this is, of course, as the royals always do, that the causes that they choose get a lot of scrutiny. And, of course, given all the real estate that the royals have, the discussion of homelessness is a tricky one for them. But that would have been canvassed before he really leaned into all of this. This would have been discussed, I'm sure, by the palace endlessly. How's this going to look? What are the optics? And I respect the fact that he's still leaning into this. He hasn't shied away from it. I think that he has said, he said he hears the criticism and he still just wants to at least use his platform to try to find solutions. And I respect that part of it as well. The fact that he's
the fact that he's got a lot of homes is not his fault, is it? I mean, that's something which they do have to sort this out, the royals. They have got too many homes at the moment. I think that's a sort of separate issue. But if he didn't get involved in these things, people would criticise him. But people will criticise him if he does. So you can't really win. There's always someone out there who's willing to criticise. But I think he wants to make a difference. He's using some Duchy of Cornwall land that he's now inherited, of course, to build some houses which he's going to put homeless people in. So he's using that as a practical measure. So I think he really, you can tell by the programmes that he really does care about this issue. And it's not just, it's not just something that he's doing to sort of his own image. He very much is into it. And, I think it's a good thing.
And like you said before, actually, as well, about getting to see this side of William, I think we're learning more about him as a person now at this point in his life than we ever have before through this. Even though it's about homelessness, it's about him.
The other thing is homelessness is a worldwide problem, isn't it? I mean, this is getting traction in the States as well, getting some coverage. I think it's going out on Disney, isn't it? So people are going to see it there. So, he could well get involved with other projects around the world, I should think. But, but starting off small and seeing if we can build it up.
I'm so glad that this documentary has come out, because I've sat there on these jobs or stood there on the jobs with a notepad listening to William talking, and sometimes it doesn't come across in the newspaper articles or the short little clips that appear on the television news, kind of how into it, how intelligent he is, how people react, how he reacts when he's being told these kind of stories. So the fact that it's spread out, this documentary, over such a long time, you really get to understand his motivation, why he's doing it and what his kind of aims are. But he also addresses as you mentioned there, the criticisms. He faces it down in this documentary where he says, well, I understand people are going to criticise me for having lots of houses. You mentioned it earlier, but do you think, either of you think that he can escape this criticism? Is he the right person to end homelessness when he lives in, many houses and has a castle and a palace to use?
Well, we're not in the age of deference with royals anymore, obviously. We've moved into a more modern society with that sort of thinking. And I think it is such a tricky path they have to walk, where they want to show that they can affect positive change, but also not put too much of a spotlight on their privilege. And that's a difficult one. But again, I do respect that he's chosen something that impacts a lot of people, but also that so many people care about. This is an issue people do want to see solved. And I think that the fact that he's leaning into it, and he will receive this criticism, I'm sure, over the years as it continues, he's still said, I've listened. This is something that people care about. This is something I can use my platform for, and he's going to go for it anyway.
I think proof of the pudding is the people he's trying to help. And from that program, look at that program, most of the homeless people seem delighted to see him. I mean, it's wonderful to see him hugging people, the number of people he hugs and kisses and everything else. I mean, it's all very touchy-feely. It all started with Dinah, that sort of thing. And he's carrying on. Some people find it a little bit too sort of sentimental, but I think if that's what people want, and he's building up a rapport with these people, then great. If they're happy to see him, then that's good enough for me.
And there was exactly on that. There was a scene in, I think, part 1 that really kind of spoke to William and Catherine's position with the public, which is, he walked in. I think it was in Sheffield, to the youth centre. And the boys, they're so cool. They're playing basketball. They're hanging out. They're just a bunch of cool teenagers who wear all massive dags too. But there's Prince William walking in his suit. They were so excited. And that's the reach that they have. To get a room full of people like that, it's so exciting. Teenagers are very hard to reach.
It's all classes and all cultures they appeal to.
Yeah,
that is the appeal of the royal family, I
yeah.
think, that they appeal to people, It's above politics. It's not. I mean, Keir Starmer went into some of these places these days. He probably wouldn't get quite such a nice reception, but William's able to do that.
It's really interesting. That is one of my favourite bits for the bunch of lads. They're playing basketball, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's a be you, but not be you. You know what I mean? It's be respectful, but yeah.
That was one of my favourite parts. Yeah. And again, just
their reaction when they heard that William was going to turn up, and it's that the kind of impact that you can have on a topic. There's a second documentary coming out. It's Queen Camilla. I think it's called Her Majesty the Queen Behind Closed Doors, and I've luckily got a viewing this week at the Palace, and it will be out in the next couple of days, I think over the weekend, which is definitely worth a watch. But it's about domestic violence, something that she's been working on, I think since like 2012, that she's been getting involved in shining a light on domestic violence. She's been getting lots of women together at the Palace. She's done some very good projects on providing toiletries for women after when they're attending domestic violence shelters and stuff like that. But these are two big, now heavy topics that the royals are getting in, and documentaries, which is like almost feels kind of new that they're actually screening these big TV shows to highlight what work they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the point I was making a few moments ago about them concentrating on a few core things, I think that's what Queen Camilla's doing as well. She's concentrating on literacy, and she's concentrating on domestic violence. And that, again, is something that she feels she can make a difference. Osteoporosis, obviously, is a cause close to her heart because her mother and her grandmother both died with that. So I think that's what she's doing as well. The days, as I say, of having 700 patronages like the late Queen did, I think they've gone. It's a shame for some of the charities that like to have a royal patron, but I think the feeling these days is they can actually achieve more if they just concentrate on these issues and actually get quite involved in them.